Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to chase your joy, find alignment, and create a life and a business that you love, using actionable methods, interviews, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host, your always hype woman and sometimes ass kicker, Amanda Chills, and I am so proud of you for choosing to step into your power. Come along, we've got dreams to build. Hello, Root of Power fam. We have got Sarah Foster here, who is the English equivalent of a CEO of a very large, very impactful company. And she is going to talk to us about it and her beliefs on businessship and her beliefs on confidence and how that's essential. And she is an author who writes about confidence and building it and owning it. And I am so excited. Welcome. Hi.
Hi, Amanda, and hi, listeners.
How do you get to be a CEO?
Well, you have to have confidence. You have to back yourself.
Especially as a female.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the little stories I always tell, so I became a statutory director, so with statutory responsibilities for the business in 2018 when that's 4 years ago now. So I was 36 years old. I was female. And at that point, I'm led to believe that there were more CEOs in the world called John and Steve than there were female CEOs. So it's always something that I'm very conscious of. And I think that the beauty of the answer to that question is there's lots of different routes to get there. So I took quite an unconventional route to the boardroom. I wasn't university educated when I was younger. I bypassed that because I wanted to get straight into the world of work. And I started a career in sales, which enabled me to sort of absorb lots of different experiences and meet lots of people. I think you've got to have a bit of help along the way. I've been very lucky. I've had quite a few mentors that have pointed me in the right direction. I did return to education later in life. So when I took on, at the same time, I took on the directorship, I went back to uni and did a certificate in business administration in order to prepare me for the job at hand. But yeah, that's the route I took. You can take an educational route. You know, you can set up your own business and build something that you then run. So yeah, there's lots of ways to do it.
Yeah. I am just so fascinated by corporate culture. I don't know how similar it is to like the US corporate culture, but I would get fired so quickly if I worked in corporate. It's just,
you don't fall in line.
Oh my God. There's a reason I work for myself. Like I was very lucky so I'm a therapist. And I was very lucky to have bosses who got me and also trained me. They were like, you can't talk to certain people because you're going to get in trouble. And I'm like, I hate being quiet. So I always knew I would work for myself because I would quite literally die in corporate culture. But I don't know how similar like UK corporate culture is to US, but I can imagine it's very intense. There's a lot of expectations. It can be very political.
Yeah. And I think still very much globally, corporate culture is shareholder led. And that's one of the things that as a newer leader, I want to challenge. And I think that links into confidence and why I'm passionate about confidence, because I think you can only challenge the status quo if you are confident
if you're a little bit of a bad bitch.
Yeah.
And so I talk a lot about energy, and a lot of confidence is energy. So like people say, fake it till you make it, right? You can say the same sentence. And if you say it with confidence, people just believe you.
Yeah.
If you act like you belong, people trust that. So much of confidence as well is energy. And I can imagine that when you stepped into this CEO role, like your energy had to shift. You had to command your energy in a very different way. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think you have to have gravitas. And I think there's lots of traits of a good CEO, in my opinion. You have to have a bit of humility as well, and be humble, and know when to turn that up and when to turn it down. You have to be accountable. I think it all boils down to trust. If your people, and by people I mean all stakeholders, so shareholders, customers, staff, staff, employees, suppliers, if they trust you and take you and your word at face value, you will be able to thrive in business, and you will gain the respect that you need to get people to back your decisions.
100%. How do you build trust?
Oh, well, I think it is about being true to your word. So one of my biggest values, if you like, that I've always been very conscious of is to keep to commitments. So when you say you're going to do something in a work setting or otherwise, follow through with it. And if you can't, because we live in a topsy-turvy world, and sometimes things happen that you didn't foresee, and you can't keep to something that you've committed to, then you need to be open about why and what you're going to do about that. Yeah. And I think that's how you build it.
I love that. So I coded, so sometimes when people talk, my brain codes it in a different way. And so I coded that as like show up for people consistently. And that builds trust. And then that trust builds confidence in you. So when you come to them and you say, hey, I've shown up for 100% of the things, or I explained why I couldn't, but now I want to do this new thing. They're going to have so much confidence in you because you have this long history of evidence that says they are reliable. They do follow through, and trust inspires confidence when you have a new idea as well. And it just pays dividends.
Yeah. And don't say you're going to do things you're not going to do. A lot of us learn that the hard way. We'll nod. Yes. I'll do that. Knowing full well we've not got the capacity in our working day to take it on. So I think one of the advantages of harnessing your authentic confidence is being able to say no, but in a polite and pleasant and constructive way.
Yeah, you don't have to be a jerk. You just say, I'm so sorry, I don't have the room for that. But that's confidence too. To be able to set a boundary is a confidence. And then again, people trust you because you're honest.
Yeah.
Oh, we just love that. How did you decide to be an author? Was that something you always wanted to do? Was it just something that came on your heart and you're like, oh my God, I got to teach people.
Yeah. I think really my inspiration for the book was my kids. So I've got two children who they're grown up now. So I had my children young as well, which added another complexity to having a career because I was a young mum. But I think watching my children, so they're 21 and 17 now, but watching them start high school, and in this day and age with social media and comparison against others and everything that teenagers have to face, psychologically, I watched that and thought, if we're not careful, we're going to head into a lack of confidence epidemic because everyone is being judged by one another and serving up these falsehoods via social media of how life is or how it should be, and really being judged quite superficially. So that was the motivation behind it. And I think, just to pay it forward. So I wrote the book in 2019, spanning 2019 and 2020, really. And it is just a little workbook that distills all of the tricks that I've learned over the years to get to where I wanted to be. And it is a workbook. So you work through it and you write in it and you can revisit it. And it just outlines 3 simple steps that you can remind yourself of if you're having a bout of doubt or a period where your confidence is low, because it is, it does change over time. And we all have times where we feel at our best in terms of confidence and not our best, myself included. So I just wanted to distill that into a handy guide that the next generation could have as and when they needed it. I love that. I think it's such a gift. Maybe gift is the right word, to go through something and then to turn around and to support the person behind you.
I find that a lot of people either kind of fall into two camps, right? They're like, well, I went through it, so you should have to, which is like, jump off a bridge with that BS. Like, no, thank you. And then there's the people who say, well, I go through it and I don't want you to. So here's the roadmap. Here's what I did. And that is such, like, that's so human to me.
It's a privilege.
It's so privileged, right? When we live in a place of privilege, the goal is that we bring others with us. Like a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about humanity is the best of us will turn around and say, you don't have to go through this. I went through it. Here's your roadmap. And I love that so much. And there was another place I was going to go with that, but now my brain lost it. What is the process like to write a book? Like, what was your process? Did you have a certain number of words a day? Did you work with a publisher? Like,
yeah, I self-published purely because I'm a little bit impatient, and to get a publisher, there's a process that you have to go through and you have to court them and win them over. And, you know, I have a very demanding full-time job and a family, and I didn't want to go through that process. So I self-published, and the process for me, I kind of picked it up and dropped it again. So I didn't put any limits on how long it was going to take. I set out the framework, and then I just made a commitment really that at evenings and weekends I'd review where I was up to and I'd work on it. And yeah, it took as long as it took, you know, because I just wanted it to be the best it could be as a finished article. I did get some help with the editing and the publishing process, which, you know, was helpful, and I'm glad I did that. But yeah, I actually started writing it. I was on holiday in Dubai and I was reading Wayne Dyer's Power of Intention. Sat on the sun lounger, big fan of Wayne and his literature, and I was inspired really to get going with that. So when my husband and my daughter were getting ready for dinner, I'd just spend half an hour on my laptop during that holiday, just getting started with the framework.
I love that. Writing a book is something I've wanted to do for a hot minute, but like haven't sat down to do.
It's like birthing a child. It's like, really? You know, you've got the different phases, the first trimester, and you get all these different challenges and complexities as you go, but it's just as satisfying at the end. You know?
Yeah. And I love it because people, you know, like people who can't have access to you, and it's so like books are so accessible, especially with the internet, where like people can really get a lot of value working through things on their own. Sorry, I just thought the goats were out. I love goats, and their life dream is to be out every day. That's just that's what they spend their life figuring out how to do. But it's one of our turkeys, and I was like, goats. That it's just a turkey.
Life on the farm.
The farm is the best thing I've ever done. The best thing I've ever done. Yeah, I am obsessed with my farm. What is the most fun thing about being a CEO? What do you love about it?
I would say it's that no 2 days are the same. So it's not a prescriptive job. You do have a job description, obviously, which is mainly centered around building and driving the strategy for the business, but you never quite know what you're going to come up against, you know, and on both sides. So some days it's head in hands, you know, just don't know how to deal with this particular situation, because ultimately you're the backstop for everything. So anything that is either particularly opportunistic or particularly challenging will weave its way to your desk. And I think that's fun because you get to be I'm, as is evident with the book, I'm a fan of getting out of your comfort zone. I really think that's where your best life kind of can be found. 100%. So I'm pushed out of my comfort zone on a regular basis, and for me, I like that, you know, to an extent. Obviously, I don't want to get into overwhelm, but I think the job really allows you to be exposed to different situations, to meet different people, to travel, to find out how others are doing things, and that's it's a journey. It's great.
I love that. I actually call the comfort zone the misery zone. Because I think if you stay there, you end up with a miserable life. Like, we're meant to expand, not into like the terror zone, but like we want to continually stretch and stretch.
Yeah.
Okay, so your company does environmental consulting. Can you talk about the work that you guys do and how you fill in the gaps where governments are dropping the ball?
Yeah. And there isn't enough strategy. And the problem with the climate crisis is it is a global sort of climate crisis. And so governments really need to work together globally to set standards. And we have a lot of inequality in the world right now. And that just, we're not forging forward as one, which saddens me. So, what we do, we work with about 1,600 customers across mainly sort of retail and manufacture and some importers, and we help them navigate their legal obligations. So the things that government tell them they have to do, like deal with their packaging waste effectively and deal with electrical waste and batteries. So we help with all of that sort of box ticking. But more recently, we are seeing appetite, which is marvellous, for non-mandatory things. So voluntary commitments.
More than the bare minimum.
Yeah, more than the bare minimum. So a lot of businesses right now are focused on ESG, environmental, social and governance, which sets out a business's strategy for ensuring that they protect the environment and that they protect their people and that they do everything right in terms of governance. So they pay the right amount of taxes, and they're actually, what we want to drive towards is businesses being net positive, which means you put back more than you take. And we've had this very linear approach to business through capitalism for 100 years plus now, where it's all about extract, build, get as much out of the workers as you can at the lowest price, make as much money for the fat cats, for the shareholders. And I think that is really starting to change now. And there's a few sort of quite popular initiatives such as B Corp, which has come out of the USA. So B Corp is a framework that allows businesses to focus their decision making equally on people and planet as profit. So it's not just about financial performance of a business, it's about how much have you helped the community, how well do you treat your staff, how many trees did you plant, how much rewilding have you done in your outside spaces, is the solar on the roof, all those kind of things, which is a fabulous place to be in and something I'm very keen to draw attention to.
Yeah, which is the entire, so I came across a term, I don't know, sometime my brain is bad at timelines, but sometime in my lifetime, I came across the term, like the social contract that businesses ideally were upholding. Like, you don't just exist to make profit for the owners, you exist to improve your community. And you're so right when you say that, like, for such a long time, it was how much money can we make? How can we exploit? And that was such the point of businesses. And to see that transition where like businesses feel like there's humanity back in them again, maybe is like the right way to, a way to put it, is so nice. Like, take care of your people.
Yeah.
That's your job. Your job is to take care of your people in your community, not just to exploit. And I love, that is so wonderful. So you've been really you have kind of a bird's eye view of that trend.
Yeah.
Trending.
It's becoming popular. And governments do need support from business because, business makes the world go round. Most of us at some point will have some kind of vocation to sustain ourselves, whatever part we play in that. So we're a bigger force together. And if every business made this commitment to be net positive and to look at its environmental impacts and its societal impacts, as well as make a profit. And there's some great examples of that. I mean, Ben and Jerry's ice cream are a B Corp, so
we love them. We stand Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah. So you can do, and they're a very profitable business. So it can be done. There's proof of concept that this can work, but I think the old school thinking is some kind of fear, if we lean into this, then it'll all go wrong, and you need
it'll
to take
cost too much money and it won't.
Yeah.
Do you see, I would imagine that when people start investing in that way, because that's what it is, it's an investment. One, I can imagine the business is much more sustainable because now you have systems in place. Why would good people leave your business when they're taken care of?
Yeah.
Right? Like, people don't just stay for a paycheck. If you get the culture right, if you get the people right, they'll carry you through hell. But you have to get it right. And it's like, when we saw this mass exodus of people from the workforce, so much of that is because managers, bosses are toxic at best and destroying lives at worst. And people are like, actually, I don't have to do this. There's companies who do take care of those people, and those companies thrive. So I'm wondering if when you work with companies to transition in that way, if you actually see their profits and their profitability go up.
Yeah, I think we do. And I think those businesses who are choosing to do this and investing in it, they are of a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. So they're probably doesn't just have to do with the fact that they are open to a better way of working. It probably boils down to the fact that they're innovative and passionate by nature. So that growth mindset on the board, and this links back to diversity on a board and having representation of many different perspectives, not just gender, but age, ethnicity, social
experience.
All of those elements come into play and bring innovation. So I think that is actually probably the root cause, is that the businesses who are getting on board with this are very innovative and they're driving change, and that's why they're profitable.
I just love that. So as a CEO, like, what does your typical day look like? Do you have set hours? Do you get to like time block your day? Like, what is that?
Yeah, so there's always meetings to attend, and so one of the tricks that I've learned really over the years is to block out white space in between those meetings, particularly in this day and age where we're all meeting on Zoom or Teams or online, and you can have one meeting adjacent to another and no time to even go and fill your glass of water or take a toilet break or anything like that. So I think you've got to set your stall out in terms of your working week. But one of the things that we do as a business, because we genuinely want to go on this journey of empowering our employees, we have full flexible working. So it is in my gift to choose the hours that I do work, and in return for that, the business asks that I achieve my objectives and that I keep to all of my commitments, again, following through on everything that I commit to. So we ask that of every employee. However, if there's a sports day or a gym class, or maybe just you want to go and get your hair done on a Wednesday afternoon because it's not busy in the hairdressers then, or there's an offer on then, you're well within your rights to do that as an employee, and you are empowered to manage your workload, to put your own out of office on, to make sure anything that you man in that time is dealt with. So I try and lead by example on that, and I try and utilize flexible working visibly so that others can all see that's okay.
And it like gives them permission.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that. I think that's one of the most beautiful things to come out of COVID is like so many businesses that were like, we can't possibly work from home. Is like, shut up. Yes, you can. And then they were forced to, and oh my God, what did we know would happen? People are so much happier. They're more productive. The work still gets done. And it's, COVID was horrible, obviously. No, yes. But that is such a beautiful thing to come out, is all these businesses are like, oh, I don't have to micromanage you. I don't have to you don't have to be in prison to work here.
Yeah. And actually, one of the nicest things when that happened for us, we're 45 employees. So we were able to mobilize working from home quite quickly. Everyone had a laptop, and from day one, we made sure that everyone knew that we as a leadership team recognised that it was work invading home rather than home invading work. So if you were homeschooling, or you had toddlers running around the place or dogs like we've got ourselves, bring them on camera, talk about them. Don't shush them. Don't shush the kids up in the corner.
Life happens. It's okay.
Let them know, mum or dad is working. We're on a meeting. Here's my colleagues. And it's their home, so they need to feel comfortable. If you're situated at the kitchen table, it's their kitchen table first and foremost. And that really worked for us. So we had extended employees joining meetings, and it was really fun. We got to know each other.
It's cool because you have children, they're so nosy. They're like, what are you doing? And it's to engage that curiosity. And I can imagine it was very cool bonding as well. I don't have kids because they're so hard, but to be able to engage them this is what I do. And here's my colleagues. And now they're a part of your life. And that's such a compassionate space. It sounds like you really, one of your values as a leader is compassion and allowing people to be who they are and where they are and to just grow from that, which is lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I truly believe that's how you get the best out of people. So in return for that, I know there are members of my team, colleagues who will go above and beyond, when needed, and when times are tough, and sometimes all businesses go through periods where colleagues need to put extra work in or do tasks that are very difficult, and it's a two-way street.
I love that. What did you guys do with your offices? Are people flexible now? Do they?
Yeah, so we've retained the office, and actually we've grown throughout COVID. We've continued to grow as a business because the sector we're in is so buoyant at the moment and so topical, and there's lots of opportunities. So we have now a hybrid working system where, because actually on the flip side, there are certain tasks and certain activities that require collaboration and that are easier to get into a meeting room together. We employ a lot of data analysts, and they will work on data projects together, and it's easier for them to interact sometimes in person. So typically the team will come in a couple of days a week and work from home a couple of days a week, and we kind of hot desk around that. So we've retained the office space, and we're set on a country estate in Yorkshire, so it's very pleasant. It's not.
Can I come out of your office? Yes, please.
yeah. So it's a nice space.
Oh, what? I wonder if my house counts as a country estate. I'm in the country. We've got that part right. I don't know about anything else, but we're definitely in the country.
Yeah. Well, you have goats. We have sheep.
We have sheep
grazing the land.
They're crazy. We never had sheep before. We kind of inherited them a couple years ago. There was a guy who was bringing a bunch of animals in and out of our farm, and they were really sick. And so we were like, bro, you got to stop bringing animals. This is not going to work. And then we wouldn't let him come back because all of his animals were sick, and we're like, they're ours now. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we inherited a bunch of goats and sheep. We've never had sheep before. They are strange little things.
Back to full health now, though.
Oh yeah. Well, so some of them were so sick we ended up losing them, which was, we tried everything we could, but they just came in so sick. But the ones that we ended up saving a lot of them, and he was really mad, and we were like, you can die mad about it. I know you're not taking these animals back. So we ended up inheriting 20 goats and sheep. And they're monsters. We have one named Princess. She's a big Boer goat. I don't know if you guys have that breed. They're big meat goats. So they're white and brown, and they have floppy ears, and they're just, oh my God, they're so cute. And she likes to sit in the sun, and she'll cross her little front legs, and she'll turn her face to the sun and stick her tongue out and close her eyes. And so I started calling her Princess. And she's a monster, but we love her.
Yeah.
We love Princess.
Yeah. So, and that will make you more tuned into the climate crisis and the planet and how we're all interlinked and we're all dependent on one another. No one can make it on their own in this world.
Right. How do you sit with, because if you're at the forefront as you are, like, you also see the devastation that a lot of people don't see because they're not in this world. So how do you carry that without like becoming hopeless?
Yeah. And it is, you could go that way. So for me, I have a lot of faith in humanity, and I think the majority of people are good, and have good intentions. I think there is the route to us overcoming the world's biggest problems is education and challenging the status quo and getting to the facts. I think there's a lot of, we call it greenwashing in our sector, but misinformation. There's a lot of misinformation, and people sort of make things look better than they are, whether it be packaging or products or environmental impacts, they make it look better than it is. So I think you need to follow the science. But I think the way to stay motivated and stay positive about the future is to look for inspiration from people who are doing great things. And there are so many people who are volunteering or starting up non-for-profit businesses or coming up with really cool ideas, to get litter out of the sea, kids coming out of college, coming up with great tech ideas that can help solve the biggest problems. So I think focus on those, because, it's like
put your blinders on.
Yeah.
And focus on the work.
Yeah.
How do you feel about self-confidence as like a construct? So I'll give you more information when I ask that question. So I find a lot of people think self-confidence is like, if you're self-confident, you're confident in everything, right? Instead of saying self-confidence is situational.
Yeah.
And it depends. So like, you may be really confident in your ability to play the guitar, but you're not very confident in your ability to like speak in public, or you're really confident in your work as a CEO, but you became, you took up golf and you're like, I am the worst golf player on the planet. So if someone is looking to build self-confidence, what do they do?
Yeah. So I outline in the book, I've got the book here, Yabba Dabba Do It, for those who are looking on
that is
YouTube,
so clever.
and you can see us live. So it's based, the name is kind of like based on the Flintstones, Yabba Dabba Do, and your brain is wired to keep you safe, not happy. You'll know this with your psychological sort of education and background, and the brain is still wired as it was when Fred Flintstone was around, and there was real danger. So a bear could come and eat you, or you wouldn't have enough food, or you'd freeze to death because you had no clothes. And that was real back then. But now we don't have those same factors that are likely to sort of wipe us out, but we still have that primal reaction to certain situations. So, to circle back to your question, it's interesting you said, you're confident as a CEO, but not as a golfer, which is probably quite relevant for me. I don't think I'm that good at golf. I think I've done pitch and putt once or twice. And I think that has to do with, that certain situation triggering something. And that has to do with experience and how well prepared you are. So in the book, I outline 3 steps, and I'll just talk about them briefly. Yeah. So step 1 is prepare. So that is all about the mindset side. So there's some tips and techniques like visualization and journaling and setting yourself up for success. But it's not only the mindset, it's also the physical side. So things like drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, getting out in nature, doing things that make you happy.
Not being in survival mode.
Then you are setting yourself up for success. So you might go and play golf one day after you've done all of those things to look after yourself and to prepare, and be fantastic. But then you might have, a 3-day bender drinking and not getting sleep and having arguments with all your loved ones, and you go to golf and you're terrible. So I think it's subjective, and I think you have the power to choose how you set yourself up for success in the preparation phase. I use the analogy in the book, when we build a house or a building, a school, a hospital, we build the foundations. We don't just throw the bricks on and hope for the best, it'll fall down. So preparation is key in confidence in terms of setting yourself up for success. And, to take an example, if you're going for an interview, make sure you plan your route. Make sure if the train's cancelled, you've got a backup plan to get a cab or to drive. Make sure that you've got your outfit ready. The less you have to think about, the better you'll do in the next phase. So the next phase after prepare is do. And this is where you do no thinking at all. So you just throw out procrastination or any thinking, and you just have a go. And by doing that, you will build confidence, because competence will build confidence. So by having a go, you've only got two possible outcomes. It'll either go really well and you'll feel great, or it won't go as well as you wanted, but you'll have some information to help you determine why that was.
Yeah.
And that leads into the third step, which is review. So it's prepare, do, review. And review is all about data. So we live in a data-driven world. Right now, we're in 2022. Data's more valuable as a commodity than precious metal. And we have a very advanced data download system in our brain and in our intuition, in our gut and in our heart, which will tell us, if we're prepared to listen, will tell us what we need to know. So the data side is continually reviewing, taking your own feedback loops on situations, what's triggered you, why, in what situation did you feel less confident, and then working on and circling back to prepare to work on that. And that's why I describe it as a workbook, because there is space to write things down, which, so to give an example, I call it writing down your anchors. So your anchors are things that you've done in life that you've been really proud of. So it might have been cooking Christmas dinner for 10 people, or the first time you rode a bike and you realised that no one was holding on the back anymore and off you went and you felt great. We'll all have situations that we can draw upon where we were just our most confident self, and they are you regardless of whether you're having a good day or a bad day. So writing them down and referring to them is advantageous. So I believe we can all harness authentic confidence to do whatever we need to, whatever we want to in life, and find joy.
And I find too that people who are confident, not only is life easier, they get farther because they're not like unintentionally blocking themselves. Does that make sense? Like, if you're willing to try and look stupid, the amount of things you can do now is exponential, versus if you're not willing to look dumb, you're so limited. So being willing to go through that process and to depersonalize data, right? Like, failure is not personal. Being bad at something you just started isn't personal. Everybody's bad at something when they first start something. So taking data for what it is and using it to say, okay, this went really well, why? This didn't go well, why? And then just continually fixing breeds competence, which you are so right, breeds confidence, because confidence comes from action. You're never going to be confident playing the piano if you've never played the piano before. You have to practice.
That's right. And there's a nice little chapter in the book called Be Your Own Bestie, because this links into self-talk. And in particular, we're quite mean to ourselves by nature. We will talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to our best friend. And internally, we have this dialogue that is completely unhelpful. So there are some examples in there about, if you catch yourself doing that and berating yourself and talking to yourself in such a way that is unconstructive, just imagine that whatever situation it is that's happening is happening to your best friend. And what would you say to them? because the likelihood and just see, what comes up, because the likelihood is that you'd speak with more kindness and with more constructive, input and more positivity than you do with yourself. But we become conditioned to beat ourselves up, and that serves no purpose.
No purpose. A shame-based motivation does not work.
No.
We think it does because other people shamed us, but it feels so much better for someone to say, hey, you tried, this part didn't work, and this part was really great. And you're just like, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
when we boil it down.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, and just keep asking, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? I might feel a bit silly. Well, what's the worst that can happen after that?
You're not going to die about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Is there plans to write another book?
I would love to write another book, and actually I'm inspired. I've just read a book, I've just finished it this morning actually, by Paul Polman, who was the CEO of Unilever, very large corporation, as I'm sure you'll know. Ben & Jerry's is part of their group. And the book is called Net Positive, and it really sets out how Unilever is a very big, global corporation tackled sort of sustainable living with their plans. And I would love to write something similar, because I'm very passionate. I honestly believe that the world's biggest problems, which I believe to be the climate crisis, war, inequality, poverty, I think they can be solved by people having the confidence to start and operate businesses for good. And I think if we can educate the business community on the benefits of that, like we were talking about a bit earlier, the world will be a better place. So that would be book number 2, as and when I get time.
I love it. Oh, that is so beautiful. So how do people find you? How do people find the book?
So it's on Amazon. So if you search just Yabba Dabba Do It, Sarah Foster, you'll find it there. There's quite a few reviews, so you can have a little look what others say about it, and you can get a sneak peek of it as well. I do also have a website for kind of that side of what I do for the book, which is attitudeacademy.co.uk. So all the W's, and then Attitude Academy as one word, .co.uk. And I share blogs and thought leadership and podcasts that I do as well on there. So if you want to explore other topics that I've spoken about, head there. And then in my day job, the web address is www.complydirect.com. We are mainly a UK based business, but if there are lots of kind of knowledge banks on there in terms of what to do to be more environmentally savvy, and what we do on the environmental side as a business, if you wanted to go and explore that.
Oh, I love it. If people forget everything we said and they're like, I don't know what I just listened to for the last hour, what do you want them to remember?
I want them to remember that they have one life. It is their life. They are the captain of it. No one else. They came in by themselves. It sounds grim, but they came in alone. They'll go alone. This is your moment. So live your moment as you want to. And I want to just pay homage to one of your kind of catchphrases that I've heard, in other podcasts that you've done. So you very much talk about, if you believe a certain thing, you'll make it so. You'll talk yourself into it. You'll engineer it to happen. And my take on that is, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're probably right. So, I think, value yourself. You're here once. Go be empowered. Do it your way. Do it your way. Like Frank Sinatra said.
We love some Frank. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much. You were such a doll.
Thanks.
This was beautiful.
Yeah, I've loved speaking to you and to your audience. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.